Welcome to the Conclave. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Conclave Podcast. We have a wonderful, wonderful guest with us today because we are talking about I did what and when? Past lives. So, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our vast listeners?
Hello, I am Sarah Mackenzie. I read as Sora, Sora the Intuitive, Sora Sky Messages. I occasionally take on another mantle if I have something going on. But I am a generational intuitive tarot reader, which means that I use my family's practices, but also just sort of how my guides come to me. With the past life readings, it's also how your guides come to me. It changes it a little bit, which is kind of cool. Um, the I have been reading most of my life. I have been reading, I don't know, professionally for almost 8 years. Yeah, about 8 years. And the past life readings I've been doing for about 7 years.
And that's how you came to us. So, I,
Mhm.
I was I was asking Jess earlier, I was trying to remember when exactly it was you came to the shop and how we got to know you and have you come in as a guest reader. And I know it was between one of two stories, I think. And one was we had this young lady come in, did her tryout. We weren't too sold on her, but it's like, you know what? She's young.
She's just starting
This is her
out.
first attempt. Let's give her a shot. And then she no showed us. The other one was a giant walking red flag who was trained at a school in a town for psychics. Mm.
I know the one.
Yeah, I don't want to say the name of it and then piss everybody off and get canceled because how dare you speak out against them? But they teach cold calling. So that is always a giant red flag for me when it comes to psychics or card readers or anything of the such. If you have to cold call, you
And
know what I mean?
and she wasn't untalented. I just think she tried to fill in too much
No, no,
extra
no, no,
space.
no. That's the younger. The second one was the Reverend.
I know.
Yeah,
I know. I'm
she.
just saying, like, she wasn't untalented. Like, she had skills, but she relied too much on cold
But we
calling.
don't know that because she no called, no showed us.
Oh, wait, sorry. That I was thinking
Yes,
the other
yeah,
lady.
you're thinking of a different one. No,
You know,
this one no called, no showed her audition because we always try people out before they do a guest spot at the shop. No,
Tinkerbell's trying to make a
exactly.
guest shop spot at the
Uh,
on this podcast today.
so this one completely just no called, no showed us. And then when we told her we were moving on, she said, "Oh, oh, Tinky, Tinky, Tinky."
Yeah, put the claws away, kiddo.
Um, she got really rude and upset about it.
Yeah.
So between one of the two, it was shortly after one of those two when you came in, right? So already I was like feeling a little like
We were a little gun shy
a
on
little gun
anyone.
shy about anybody. And then when you're like, I do past life readings, I'm like, well, that's really interesting. But also, really though.
I swear to God, if you had told me you're like, oh, you were like Cleopatra in a past life, I was going to be like, get the fuck out of here.
The fact that we were both pretty much nobodies.
Yeah.
So the thing is, it's not that like Cleopatra doesn't have people running around either, but like if you are, unless you're actually currently a king or a president or a leader or something, they're not showing up. Like even if you were that person, that's not what's going to be helping you.
In
So
this
why would
life.
they bother telling you about it?
Yeah, yeah. Um, I will say you were probably the no, not probably. You were the first guest reader to make me cry
Oh,
in a good way.
that's my job.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
the first card she pulled for me, I just started cracking up.
It's a tower, and that's when you know Loki's around.
Well, no, and it was like, this is the energy for this current life. That was what the card was. And she flips it and it's the tower. And I'm like, yeah, we're keeping this one.
Yeah, and that's one of the funny things too, though, with past life readings because like it's so hard to check.
Hmm.
Um, because it's like, well, maybe this person just knows a lot about things, and then you add in like a cold read, and that's part of why I like the first card to be about you, but also because it's a great way to find out if we've pulled the right cards. If you resonate, then the rest we get a fighting chance at. And if it's also way easier for me to get to the energy through yours.
That's fair.
I mean, that's also very much for me. Okay, I need you to figure out where you're going to be, and then I will hold you there.
Pick a
She's like,
spot.
I'm old, I'm senile, I don't remember.
Yes.
No, but and the interesting thing was when I went and I did research off of what we talked about in my reading,
Mhm.
and there was that rough location, rough time frame.
Yes, and I was second guessing myself.
You were completely second guessing
I
yourself.
was like, that didn't happen. That's not a thing.
But then when I looked it up in the time frame where the life was coming through in the Baltics, the plague had come through, famine had come through, which were, not being able to heal myself as an herbalist was one of the frustrations that you were picking up on, and not it being upset with yourself for not being able to fix it. And then when I do the research and it shows both famine and the plague pulling in right around that time frame, it's like, okay, wonderful. This is great, and it really is. It is great. I was lucky enough to be, I say, gifted with one dream and one journey of other past lives.
Mhm.
So I have 3 confirmations now of past lives. It was really really great. Um, was that something like keying into any of your past lives? Is that what kind of got you interested into reading past lives, or was this just kind of a side of tarot reading that popped up and went, oh, okay, well, this is a thing now.
So I've always had an interest in past life. I had sort of forgotten about it. Um, but then when I started doing it, I was like, oh yeah, I used to read. My grandmother had given me all the Edgar Casey books. We had done regressions when I was a little bit younger. Um, but I actually had a friend come to me and was like, I'm having some pain. And I was like, okay, so that's a doctor you want to see. And he said,
Other reason why we know you.
It's like, so I don't have a DR on the beginning of my name.
and he said, well, I've been to the doctor. And I was like, chiropractor. And he said, I talked to my chiropractor. He's like, I think it's past life. And I was like, okay, so I'm a tarot reader, not a past life reader. He was like, you'll figure it out. And
Gotta love the faith.
yeah, and I have this thing about not disappointing people, even though it's like, I'll joke that it's like what I do all the time. I'm just so used to it. I don't do it as much now that I've got my anxiety in check. I don't say that as much. I mean, but it was one of those where it's like, okay. And then I was like, well, what do we know? So I got all the information that he had and I put it into a spread. And I was like, maybe I can find, if I ask the right questions, I can find the answers. So I pulled it and I was by myself at this point, and I was just writing through um, the answers because for the longest time, that's how I did, it's how I do readings for myself. So it's how I did readings unless someone was sitting in front of me. I would do the card and then I'd write down like everything I thought about it. And as I went through the process, I would look at the relationships and like put the pieces together. And all of a sudden, once I got to, I don't know, like the fifth or sixth card, I could see what had happened. So I finished writing it, sent it over. We had a little talk, and the pain went away. Um, and it came from a life where he had essentially been hurt, but that wasn't what did it. Later got infected, but essentially gave up there. And so the pain was there to remind him not to give up. And he was like, "You have to do this for other people." And I'm like, "I don't even know how I did this for you."
Just because we stumbled on the right answer doesn't mean I know.
Um,
Obviously, you figured out how.
so I tweaked that spread to make it a little more universal, but that's how. If you remember, there are two separate cards that are basically like, "Am I missing something?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I have the what else, and then the shadow is not really the shadow. It's the like, please just make sure I'm not missing anything. And then it's like I probably could do the second part, the part where I see the story on its own, but I don't think it would matter as much. I feel like the cards kind of help with the healing part for this life. Uh, but the first part creates the second. Like it's like there's a story, and sometimes I think I know the story, and then it's a different, similar
Develops
story.
differently.
Yeah,
Sudden right turn.
yeah. It's always even now I still get surprised sometimes where I'm like, I have never been to this part of the world, or I've never been to this time, or wow, this is there's something
Are you
there.
ready to get down, Tinkerbell?
I think she is, but when I try to put her, yeah, thanks. um, I don't know. I still don't totally know how it works, but it works. I will say, like with the cards, my guides talk to me the way they talk to me. Um, and so the first part is very similar to most readings. I do use very specific decks because I need a little bit more richness to them.
Mhm.
And I need them to not be like photographic. But um, the second part really comes from the person I'm sitting with. So that can all it'd be surprising because like I'm not very visual, but people whose guides are very visual, all of a sudden I'll be seeing things.
Mhm.
Uh, and the nice thing about being in a reading is that I can convince myself that it's not because I'm crazy. This is what we're doing now. Whereas if it were to just come up,
And for those of you who don't know many people who do these types of things for a living, that is a very, very common feeling.
Imposter syndrome is so real.
Well, not even just the imposter syndrome, the worry that, oh, I'm just crazy.
Yeah.
You know, it's the I've been told my entire life that hearing voices in my head is a bad thing. Boy, then you're hearing voices giving you answers to questions you haven't like asked yet.
yes, well, and there is so much with the imposter syndrome because back to like maybe I just know everything about geography. I don't. I know so little. And it's funny the times I've second guessed myself have been like that. I've had a couple others where I'm like, no, this is an area I actually know about. This is not a thing. And they're like, can I just look real quick? And then boom, research proves me completely wrong. Um, so when I am having those kind of doubts, I'm like, you know what? As long as I help somebody, whether it's through a story or something that is part of their history, I'm helping somebody. But it is one of those things where I'm like, or I'm just crazy. And then it's like, but if that helps somebody, maybe we'll just accept that too.
Yeah. I mean, we're all a little crazy. I think
Yeah,
anyone
that's
who
crazy.
is who thinks they aren't is lying to themselves.
I maintain as long as I'm still within that fashion of if I'm questioning my own sanity,
I'm not
I'm
completely
not
lost it.
completely gone, right? Saying out there like people who are crazy don't know they're crazy. So if I'm sitting there going like,
If I'm checking myself,
am I?
and
Okay, well maybe not.
I think that's also where like using cards comes in really handy because it does help with that like verification of the
Mhm.
messages you're getting. I think it also makes the customers feel better or the
Mhm.
clients feel better because they can also see things, and whether they're intuitive or not, they're going to be picking up on certain imagery, they're going to be picking up on a certain vibe that's
Mhm.
coming through.
Mhm.
So it does help them feel a little bit more concrete about the reading as well. Like I think anytime you have something that's physical, does help with
It's like
that
quick.
kind of grounding it into reality.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's kind of why like when I'm doing a reading, I will go through, okay, so this card definitionally means this. This card definitionally means that. This one means this. Now this is intuitively what the message
Mhm.
is. So they have that
Yeah.
concrete.
And I will do the if you Google it, this is what you're going to get. You shouldn't, but you're going to.
The internet's wrong.
But so I'll be like, just so you know, I know what this means. This is what it means to Rider Waite Smith. This is what it means to me.
Mhm.
This is
This
what
is
it
what
means
it
right
means in
now.
the context of the other cards surrounding it,
Mhm.
too. Like,
Right, because there's not one definition for each card, or there's not one meaning for each card. It
no,
matters what you're asking. It matters what is around you.
what position it's in,
Mhm.
what's next to it, what's
Mhm.
behind it, what's in front of it. Like,
Cards are
Even
like the English language. The words, it's all just a bunch of jumbly things until you put it in context.
Yeah.
Very true. I mean, I've had ones come out where 5 cards down the line, it changes the meaning
Mhm.
of the card 5 cards earlier. It's like, okay, hold on, let's double back real quick.
Yeah, or you're like, I'm not really sure where this one is coming, but you continue further into the reading and you're like, oh, so that's why we have this up here. Okay.
Yep, 100%. So personally, if I was able to do that with the cards, I would probably sit there and check life after life after life after life. Do you have any cool, interesting, or whatnot past life stories of yours that you'd like to share?
Um, sure. So I've only ever pulled 2 for myself.
See, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do it.
I usually can't. And it was on a suggestion. And I was like, but the thing is, I don't read for myself. It's not,
See, normal tarot, I don't read for myself either.
yeah. And I'm like, but okay, maybe. And I actually used, I used 3 decks. I did not use one of those, but it was because I used a deck that was blessed and gifted to me by my mom. She didn't do the blessing, she had it blessed. She gave it to me and she was like, the reader said, um, to make sure it's surrounded by your energy, put something of yours around it and only keep it like don't take it out around other people and like it's yours.
Okay.
So I was like, well, I feel like that makes a safe exception. Um, and I had put my favorite shirt around it because I was like, what's going to carry more of my energy? And then I was like, but now I can't wear my favorite shirt except when I'm sure. So I got another one that's similar. Um, but I had done that, like I made it very ritualized. So I'm like, please don't second guess everything, like just try to get something from it. Um, and even though I was trying to do a decision, I could have done a decision spread. I was like, it feels like there's something bigger here. So I did the reading and it was like, yes, it's time, but it's also how I met the Morgan. I did this reading. I took all my notes. It was harder because, um, like the notes didn't make sense. A lot of times when I'm giving out the information, something either makes sense or they write it and then they go look it up, and I had to do all that part. So I'm
Do
looking,
both hard parts.
and it's giving me this information, and I'm like, okay, I don't know anything about this. And the nice thing is they do know how I think, so they were like France before it was France, and I was like, okay, can't give me the word? No, it's Gaul. I had to, like I said, look it up. And I had to take all the information and then got different like categories of information. So I was like, okay, well, I was able to make my decision. I was like, this is really interesting. It explains a lot. Being a priestess of a goddess that was about to be persona non grata in the area, um, is a very interesting dynamic that explains a lot about my hesitation to read professionally or to put my face out there, even though I didn't have the family issues. Like my family encouraged it. I read all my life, so it shouldn't be something that I was weird about putting out there, but I was. And that made a lot more sense. Um, but then I'd had a dream where I mean, there was this long winding, and there was things falling apart in it, and like cobwebs. And then I walk out, and there's this huge, expansive field, and there is what looks like an angel, as we think of them, but with black wings and dark hair, uh, a woman, and nothing was spoken, but like it was like this telepathic. It's time to change, time to go another direction. And I was like, okay.
Yes,
Um, yep. And then I started asking around because I had a couple of ideas on who she could be. And I had narrowed her down to probably the Morgan and asked a friend, I was like, have you ever worked with the Morgan? And she's like, so here's why my business is called what it is. And here's all of this. And also that rock that you were carrying, that giant crystal that you were carrying around. And you were like, this just feels so good. That's her favorite. It was a garden. It was like this big and around, and I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, and I was like, is she calling me to work with her? I really don't think so. It's just that I had done a good enough job in another life that she was like, hey, don't make the same mistake in this one. And so I left.
That sounds about right with
Um,
her.
yeah,
Just to check in.
just to
I know
check
you.
in. And then the other one, I already knew a little bit about it. So usually when I do the readings, I'm looking for which past life is most influencing you, not necessarily the most recent. And I would never do a reading on my most recent because he jumped in so fast that anything I need to know about him, he just kind of shows up. Um, and that's why I tell people I'm 42, but also 72 because we didn't get the break we're supposed to.
That just sounds exhausting.
Uh-huh. When I finally ran into somebody else who'd had that. And I was explaining, I'm like, I kind of feel like this might have happened to you too. And I told her that. She's like, that's how it feels. And I was like, yeah, I think that's your past life not giving you a break. But um, I had done one on one I already knew because I would get my guides do this super fun thing where they'll show me like something like the end. It's almost like Memento or something like that, where they're like, here's something, and you're like, oh no, that's terrible. And then they're like, but here's a little more context. And you're like, oh, that's great. And they're like, and here's a little more. And I'm like, that's not good. And it's like, wait, if you had started from the beginning, this would be so much easier for everyone. I wouldn't have all these big mixed emotions. We'd just be like, oh, this is nice. Thank you. Um,
If we could ever get a message from the other side that was clear and concise and to the point,
right.
I'd probably die.
I will say there's a lot of things though that from my random past life things that have made it easier to tell other people how to confirm and validate. Um, like if you're in the middle of a situation that's like the first or second time and you're like, why is it always like this? It's probably because it's a pattern from other lives.
It's probably one of those things that you have not really worked on.
Mm-hmm.
So now, then, do you see the trope of like, oh, well, your fears come from a previous life, or this comes from that? You find that holds true?
I do. Not necessarily the way we expect it to, though. It's not like, oh, I am afraid of um snakes because of this. And it really depends on the circumstances. You'll find that a lot of people who are burned at the stake love fire. A lot of people who were drowned don't love water. Um, I do tend to be the exception there. In fact, that was one of those. I had done a regression or attempt meditation, fallen asleep, and had this dream where I was sitting up on a like a cliff looking over the water with a he's my main guardian angel, but he's dressed at the time he looked like a lumberjack. And we're watching and they're like clips from different lives and it's like, oh look, sailor, oh sailor's in the water. Oh look, this Cypress, she's being drowned. There's like all these little that life comes up a lot and I think it's finally been resolved. But and he says to me, oh, so water hasn't historically been great for you. And if he had said something like, look at your past lives, I would have been like, dream. If he looked like an angel, I would have been like, yeah, whatever. But the fact
Instead
that he
of
was
lumberjacks, like, you drown a whole lot.
yeah. I could going and I woke up with this realization. But I was like, because I was like, I was born well, I was born off the island, but I lived on an island till I was 3. I could swim from, my mom was a lifeguard, taught us all how to swim as babies. Like, I'm like, I love water. Water is like my thing. Um, but that's how I kind of got to know Ollie, my main spirit guide, who I called Chester at the time, because they don't care. And it's just like, if you're listening to me, you can call me whatever you want. But I mean, there absolutely will be, but a lot of it is it's an energy thing. So it can be a weird translation. I once had in front of me, I mean, it was, someone in their 20s or 30s, but the life in front of me that I was seeing was a General, it probably would have been a different word because it was a different time period, different country. But the word I got was general, and they had made a big decision with the knowledge they had, and it cost them a lot of soldiers. Um, and that regret carried into this life where they couldn't make a decision.
Mm.
And one of the fun things is that that's not somebody that I saw later, but I've seen similar things like that where they come back and they're like, it's gone. It doesn't mean there aren't things in our life. And I would love it if all of those would help with that. It tends to be very specific lives. Because usually we've set ourselves up so that we have enough of it in us that we're still afraid to make decisions. But sometimes something that big helps. But it's weird because it's like you're healing a part of yourself, even though it's not you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so a lot of times I have to be like, you need to forgive yourself, even though you didn't do it. And also, if you could forgive them, even though you don't know them, that would be great. But that's where a lot of the fears come. There's a fear of being too much, which I mean, plenty of us have anyway, or a fear of making the wrong decision, or a fear of not doing anything. Um, Sometimes there are people who waited too long and didn't get to do things, and so now they have to do all the things, but there's no real rhyme or reason to it. It's not necessarily the person's personality. Um, there are some lessons we want to learn so much that we will add in some childhood stuff when we're doing the pre-life planning. Which is I've been asking to speak to the manager of the universe for months now because I don't like the way it's run. I don't like here's the plan, here's the map. Now
Yeah.
you go without it. Why put all the details together?
So he can sit back and
Yeah, give
fence.
me the rubric. You know what I'm being tested on.
You know, I swear to God, we're creators' favorite trashy reality show. Like, what's happening on Earth Island 2 this year?
Right, and they're
Like,
like, you're gonna make the same mistake, and it's like, well, yeah, if you erased my memory of the mistake in the first place, and all I have is this little energy bubble being like, don't do that.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those things that when I think about the overall arching lifespan of our soul or our spiritual being or whatever you want to look at it, it's like so the theory is we're put into onto Earth to learn the lessons that we need to know to be able to
to
advance
get closer
as
to
a
the soul
spiritual
source.
being. Yeah, but don't get to remember until we die again, and then everything comes back later. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
cool. I'm not that smart. I'm probably making the same mistakes 18 lives over. Give me a
Right.
cheat code.
The closest I've come to seeing a good defense was reading about the Chinese philosophy of the 9 levels of, I want to say dua, and I don't want to pronounce it wrong because in Arabic, a dua is a specific prayer you do, and duat is the underworld for Egypt, ancient Egypt. But I think it's um
Anybody out there that might know that answer, go ahead and comment below
yes,
on whatever podcasting source you are listening to and or watching us from so that we can know.
yes, please. But at the end of the 9 circles or levels, you meet Meng Po, who gives you a tea of forgetfulness. So you've learned all the lessons. You've gone through all of the karmic rituals. That's what the levels are. They basically test how good you did in certain areas. And if you were bad, you get a punishment and then you're done. Um, which is cool. But then you drink the tea. So you don't remember all of this. And I was reading about her. And it talks about how the forgetting, because you forget the pain of the punishment, you forget the thing, it's actually that purification is supposed to help you make better decisions because you're not carrying the weight. And I love the theory, but we definitely are carrying the weight.
Yeah, like we're still carrying the weight. We have none of the knowledge.
Right, just the anxiety.
Just like irrational fear and anxiety.
So if a Chinese woman with goddess level energy offers me a tea to drink, say no.
Generally, don't take tea from strangers.
Okay, but that just erases like 50% of my personality.
Yeah, see, this is why I'm just going to hell.
But yours has one L.
Well, I mean, she's another one that gets seen as, because she dwells in hell and she's part of the process, that gets seen as like a bad guy, but
Yeah.
she's actually there to save your soul, essentially.
I mean, I feel like a lot of underworld entities get that rap, though.
Mhm.
Like,
They're like, but you live there, and it's like, right, to help you.
yeah, it's like, but also, like, death is a thing that happens to us all, so, like, we kind of need to have somebody handling that,
We need some structure in death because we don't have any in life.
right?
Yeah. So no, and in my spiritual path, there's really no structure either. You just go to the islands in the other world and
When
enjoy.
you feel like getting cycled back out, they're like, there you go.
Well, that's interesting because some people will say yes to that. Um, However, it was Yeats who introduced the concept of reincarnation into Irish paganism and spirituality. So, yeah, before there's really nothing in the mythology
There's just
that
another world.
touches on it. There's just you go to the other world, you die, you go to the other world, and it's just like continuing a life. Um, there's some thought process that it's like, yeah, when you're ready, you get to come back and play again. Um, but it's kind of murky on when and how that was integrated because Yates was a big fan of um, of Indian culture and religions and thought sort of, and of course by that I mean India, not indigenous Native Americans. Um, so he was a huge fan of all that. He really loved the process of their religions and philosophies and obviously the reincarnation side to it. So when he was kind of helping to keep Irish paganism alive and to bring it back a little bit, he was interjecting some of that into it.
Well, and that's interesting because, I mean, religions do also have life cycles.
Hmm.
Not to say that they really die, but uh, depending on who's
They
around,
evolve, they change,
Mhm.
they get assimilated.
They grow. The importance of religion for me. So please don't religious scholars. This is just my personal, what I think it should be is to give some people something to hold on to, especially when it's hard. Um, it should build community other than othering. And um, one of the cool things about how I was raised and all the different places I've been, and here where we have communities, um, is you get to see what religion looks like when it's done well. Um, and it happens.
That must be a peek in the future.
um, but you see it, and it is not about us versus them. It's about um, holding people to actual good values, and what makes us alike. And that's not to say erasing what makes us different.
Hmm.
It's just that seeing that we are better together than we are worried about the other. Like when we celebrate the differences, but maintain that like love, kindness. It makes a little bit more sense out of the unstructured chaos of the world. Now, when we use it to promote our own agendas, to fight wars, to like
Subjugate people to oppress.
yeah, that's not. That's why I personally am not really
Don't
associated with it.
subscribe to any particular.
It also helps that I kind of reignited that hyper focus on past lives that I had as a kid, because it's cool to see how your beliefs structure which lives you pick, but also how which lives you pick structure your beliefs.
Hmm.
If you look, there are groups that believe that you reincarnate as an ancestor or
Along the same ancestral.
yeah. And those are places where the kids at 3 years old are telling you stories, and they're like, wait a minute, that's Aunt Margaret or whoever, and it's accepted. So it's there. But you also see that those souls do tend to go back to that same group over and over again. Whereas the people who come from beliefs that we go all over, you look at their roster
Mm-hmm.
and they've been everywhere. So it's, you can say religion is handed to us from God, the universe. You can say that people make religion, but it's really a cycle. We go back and forth, and I'd say co-create, but it's a little too manifesty for me. It's more like we make decisions and agreements, and they're like, okay, cool, and then they make some, and they're like, so you're doing this, and you're like, okay, cool, and we only sort of get how they are, and
There's a slight negotiation that happens.
yeah. I mean, that's such an oversimplification, but it's just we have more power in the universe than we think we do.
Agreed.
And yeah, I kind of don't pick a religion because I believe in all of them.
Yeah.
I always say it's a nice thing about being a pagan. You believe in a god, I believe in all the gods.
And just because I choose to work with a particular set of gods or a particular god or a particular handful isn't negating the presence of somebody else's. It's just like, oh no, these are just the guys that are helping me with the lessons I need to learn in this life. So
Yep.
these are my homies. That doesn't mean I don't believe in your homies. I just don't fuck with them.
Yeah. It goes back one of the past lives I've been keyed into. It was almost a gift from the Morrigan, and it was that look of, here's who you were. We've met, we've been in each other's lives before, and it's very obvious looking at the other ones. She hasn't been in all of, but she's been there, but never really recognized or working with or worshiping of. But when I took on a priestly manner with her and role, that was part of the negotiation. That from here on out, the rest of my lives were, it's there. And I had to say, I'm like, please do me the favor, don't force it. Show up, give the future Pats the option. I guarantee you, they will choose. If you show them what you've shown me, they'll choose.
But he's bullheaded, stubborn as fuck. So you tell him to do something, he will stand 10 toes down doing the opposite. So
I got a feeling that translates.
That's just like, I think that's a soul trait for you.
Yes. Because and that would talk to the stubbornness of the life that you keyed in on, and the anger of it, of being essentially a hermit in the woods that was an herbalist that people would come to for remedies, and then getting sick and not being able to heal yourself and dying. In my practice now, I was very adversarial to working with herbs. I didn't want to think about herbs. I didn't want to touch herbs. I didn't
still barely touch them.
I still probably talk about them.
So try to get this man to drink like a cold tea, and he just lets it sit on the counter. Like it's that bad.
Well, then that's the turnaround. I don't need to know it and use it. I married somebody that does.
Yeah, but he still doesn't fucking drink it.
Is, I mean, I would say 15 minutes and 23 seconds in. That was her third, really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm so.
But I waited to the second half. I waited till after.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't in the first half.
It was at some point after tape.
To be fair,
if you're going to say 15 and 25, then it's probably about 14.
I mean, of course, I've kind of beaten you to it the entire time.
Yep.
My cup, I don't know if y'all can see it, does say I'm a ray of fucking sunshine. So, but yeah, and so there's that all kind of aspect to it, and like my dad has always been very fascinated with one of his past lives, and it's just kind of an assumption, right? I would love to get him in a reading with you, or I would love for him to let me do a regression with him. He won't do it because I've talked to him about he had a gentleman that worked for a company that had a plant down in Dominican Republic for a while, and the guy they hired as the plant manager down there got a past life reading, learned all this stuff, and I think his was more of a regression, um, but it really changed Ramon's outlook on life. And it was the first time that I remember hearing my dad talk about past lives. And he's like, "Yeah, I think in a past life I was probably like a samurai, or at least lived in like the feudal Japanese range." He's like, "I'm always very fascinated in it. I absolutely love it. Just like there's like all these like weird tie-ins." My dad's from Czechoslovakia. Right. He's never even thought about going on a plane. Well, no, it's not true. He's thought about it. He'd love to go to Japan one day because there's this draw. But he didn't know or visit Japan that created this draw. This draw there then is what caused him that. But he refuses to do it because, and this touches now back into the religion aspect, he is a very, very devout Catholic. Wasn't always, he in Czechoslovakia, he was, I think it was technically the Church of Czechoslovakia. It was a Christian church. It wasn't until I was in the grown up, young or early adult stages of my life that he officially converted. Our parish priest tried offering him communion the one time when mom was sick in the hospital after having a couple strokes, and he's like, I'm not Catholic.
And everybody was shocked.
And Father Pat is like, "Yeah, you are." He goes, "No,
You've never been
He's like,
baptized.
but you're like one of the most devout, constant, always there people." He goes, "I know, not Catholic." He eventually, so he eventually converted. But in talking about past lives, it's like, okay, so Pop, how do you rectify that? How do you rectify the fact that you think you have a past life, but your chosen spiritual belief says that's not possible? And that's why he doesn't want to get, I think,
He doesn't want to have to do the mental gymnastics to accept
exactly.
both.
It's
Yeah.
very Hierophant. Like, it's very...
I mean, there's a reason the Hierophant card always looks like the Pope.
Right.
Like
And
99
it's
times out
part
of
of
100.
community, but it's back to, like, talking about, like, inclusion and not... Who you are is so complicated. And trying to fit into one aspect of it is just... It's going to crush you. But also there's this... We grow up one way and then we leave. Like, one of the things I talk about when we look at the Hierophant card, and I'm because I think in tarot, and so I'll throw that out, and that's cool when it's a tarot podcast, but when it's an everything podcast, everything but everything spiritual.
It's like, "Sarah, we're talking about cleaners for our floor and cabinets."
Like, oh,
Well, yes,
but you don't
here's the
understand that
star card.
or Four of Swords. You're like, because then when you clean it, you can...
Exactly.
But one of the things I talk about with the Hierophant is that our beliefs evolve, and we need to be raised with them. We need something. When we are kids, we're not really blank slates, but we do need help. So we need some sort of structure. But if you let go of certain parts of that, that's not turning against your family or your religion. It's just growing. And we have these things that we hold over. And sometimes there are things that need to be let go. But sometimes it's just we need to accept that both can be true. And so maybe, in your heart, you believe in past lives, but you're like, but I'm not supposed to.
Two things can exist simultaneously, yeah. Unfortunately. Like
that acceptance, I'd even looking at the reading as maybe it's not a past life that you've really had, but something that God gives you as a vision. I mean, I realize that when we're talking about the Abrahamics, we have to be careful with that because only certain people are given them. Just my other... Why I don't pick one. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Then that comes with some agreements that I'm not ready to make.
Right.
But maybe just seeing what you get from it for entertainment only.
Yeah.
But there's at least a story there that resonates.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not that it's a samurai, although generally if you're that pulled to something that specific.
Yeah.
Right.
But maybe that's not it. Maybe it's just the valor, or maybe it's the
like the code, or
Mhm.
like maybe it's that structure that you're attracted
Right.
to.
Maybe it's the part that makes it very Catholic. I mean, it's not a very Catholic thing, but if you look at
How structured it is and the forms and
Right.
things.
like maybe if we took the
In
labels
Japanese
off.
society in general, I mean,
Mhm.
everything is incredibly, incredibly structured. And even if it's not written, it's understood
Mhm.
that that's how you behave in certain situations.
Right. And the idea that what you were doing for a purpose is very much what I'm trying to avoid certain words. um Doing things the right way is that idea of coming from love. It's
Mhm.
very Corinthians.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't call it love, they would call it honor or something like that. But the same idea of doing good because it's the right thing to do, it's there. It's a common thread. And maybe it's easier to see when you take yourself out of where you are and put yourself in somewhere you would never be, but still know that you'd be the same person because you would do the right thing. Um, yeah, I'm back to talking in circles, but
No,
hopefully
it
that
But I
makes
mean,
100% sense.
we're talking about past lives. It is inherently a cyclical thing. Like, of course, we're going to talk in circles. It's a circle.
Yeah, yeah. And that's one of those things,
there's
like,
very little linear with me anyway.
Yeah.
and I like to look at things as like linear spirituality. Everything loops around, everything touches around. I'm a firm believer, and actually, I don't think I've ever brought this up with you, so I might like to get your opinion on this. Your past lives, are they always in the past? Can it be the future?
Ah,
Who's to say your next life isn't going to be in 300 BC?
I really believe in that.
I feel
I
like
have
spirituality is
fallen.
a splatter graph,
Yeah.
like a scatter graph, like where it's just like all over the place.
Well, and I've fallen way into the quantum physics, not in a way where I could explain it, but in that idea that if everything can happen and everything can overlap, then it is.
Mhm.
It doesn't help that I'm currently obsessed with this podcast called Midnight Burger. Um, where they travel through space and time, and
Salt
there's all
waters.
different dimensions. And I've been big on it's even weirder than that. And I've been very, very into the idea of different dimensions. Not sure I love putting this out there like everywhere, but I did at one point worry that I had somehow switched timelines.
Okay.
Um, and like the part that got me was like the morality of it because it was definitely the one I would have preferred to be in. And I'm like, but did that mean I took that from another Sarah? Um, and there have been times where I've read for somebody and I'm like, this can't possibly, this is the same timeline. Or not the same timeline, this is the same year. How can you be two places at once? Now, in one case, I was wrong, and I had just not realized that there were two major potato famines
Okay.
that caused waves of immigration in Ireland. So I was like, no, because that is one thing I know
Yeah.
is that the
Yeah.
potato famine happened while you were supposed to be in Italy or something.
Gotcha.
And it was the wrong one. So I learned all kinds of things that day. But there are also some where it's like overlapping. And then I remembered that when I was a kid doing the deep dives, I'd learned about how some of the native tribes believed that your soul sends out multiple pieces of itself at once. So you can actually be, and this is similar but not the same as like the twin flame. Um, it's just different aspects of you trying out different things.
Mhm.
So you absolutely can be in the same place or at the same time at a different place. Um,
It would explain
That explains like the quantum wizardry class I took with Thomas this summer.
Mhm.
We worked on like traveling to alternate universes that we existed in. It was awesome. It was fantastic. And I have a bunch of the paperwork and stuff because he taught it in a way that I'm supposed to teach it. So when I sit down and start working on teaching Pat and stuff, we're definitely welcome to join in on that.
But see, and I think that whole concept would explain all of the Mandela effects,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's the multiverse process and thought to it. There's the fact that time is only linear to living human beings. So past, present, future are theoretically all happening at the same time. So that's what led me to believe, like, or to think, maybe my next pass, and maybe my next life is going to be like 2,000 years ago,
Mhm.
and that makes me happy. I would like that so much.
I
Yeah,
wouldn't feel
unless
judged
you were
personally.
Jesus in your or the guy on either side. Like, I don't want to
You heard it
exist in
here
a
first, folks.
I really don't want to
I
exist in a timeline where I'm like brutally murdered in some way or executed. Like I'm
Well,
really good with being like a normal fucking peasant. The one we explored, it's like, oh yeah, I made some bad decisions.
Well, you're a dumb kid.
Yeah, I was a dumb kid who married like what I thought was a dashing older man and then had way too many kids and just got kind of trapped with them. You know what?
I'm seeing some patterns from
Yeah,
life.
he was better looking than you.
I mean, fair, but that's
You
damn.
know, like fine, that's fine. Like that's a totally normal life. It's regular hardship. I really don't need to be anybody who has been, like
No.
our friend Jake was like, oh yeah, I got shot down in a plane. Hate flying now. He's had the drowning, like
Mhm.
where his ship was sunk in like a battle, and like he's like, I'm good with the ocean. Like it can miss me. Like,
I once said, I'm so tired of being murdered, and then I looked and I was like, I'm alive. That's um
like I am not currently murdered.
it wasn't in my most recent one, so it's not even because of the lack of the
Or the gap.
yeah, which I will say too, the next life being in the past does sort of justify some of the universes like I can't tell you
Yeah.
because that does as people we like the linear. I mean, I don't, but the idea that time goes this way.
Passes and goes forward.
Yeah. We love to think about it, but a lot of people don't love the idea that you could, and so I think just to make the illusion and the lessons, that part makes sense. Where like, but see, I can't tell you your past life because then you're gonna be like, but what are those flying machines?
Hmm.
What do you mean we can cure all things? There's this book, Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss, Dr. Brian Weiss. There's a sequel where he continues on, and it's cool because his whole past life regression journey started by accident. He was doing childhood regressions on a patient. He's a licensed psychologist, psychiatrist, psychologist.
One of those psych
He's
doctors.
he's really really cool. And he was doing that, and he accidentally went too far. And she's describing this thing, and what I think is really cool is he let it go and
Just
let it
rolled with
happen
it.
because he was
Mhm.
like, if this is what her subconscious needs, and then started to do the research, and now um he gives these talks and retreats, and I would love to. Uh, the only he's not the only person I would let do the hypnosis, but I would want someone trained in that area because having a psych degree, I know how you can mess up people's memories and stuff. So, um, listening to him and reading, I know he's very careful about how he says things, but once he realized how healing it was, he went and they started doing that as a process. And then he once went too far into the future and they went into like 3,000. And it was, I think he called it a possibility. Like that's kind of like when I say most likely outcome, this is where we're headed.
Yeah. Yeah. The
Um,
future's never set in stone.
Free
yeah,
will exists.
Yeah.
but at the
We
same
got 8
time,
billion people to worry about doing something weird.
right.
Like,
But at the same time, if we look at that way, if the memory is there, it has already happened.
That is true.
So yeah, um, I'm a big believer in the just overlap and chaos of the universe that we pretend has some order to it.
So if it helps, don't think of it quite like hypnosis.
Mhm.
So I took the classes. I got certified as a past life regression therapist. Um, I'm a little iffy. I haven't like I took the class like a year ago, and I still haven't even
Mhm.
attempted to regress anybody yet.
I do want to be
Because
regressed.
because I do think there's a level of responsibility that goes along with it that you have to be prepared for. But as they're teaching, as it was teaching techniques and how to air quotes hypnotize, what I realized is it's less staring at the pocket watch hypnosis as much as it is guided journeying.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more of it's
More guided trance state than
yeah. So
Well, that's what
that
it
helps me
sounded
a little
like.
bit because it's like, you know what, this is less of a I can't accidentally screw up somebody's
Right. Well, and that's what it
psyche.
sounded like when
Unfortunately,
we.
I can't make them cluck like a chicken every time a doorbell rings. I would do that, and that's the other reason why I
Yeah.
haven't attempted to regress anybody because I would want to implant something like that, and
I
that would
would
be
throat
wrong.
punch
That would
you.
be very wrong, and I would never
Right.
actually do it, but I'd want to.
Well, right, and that's I mean, with the trainings there,
Yeah.
it's not. And I've looked up. There's nowhere nearby to get trained by him, but that would be cool too. I would love to, or by I would love to do something like that and be able to be like, okay, let's look,
Hmm.
and then let's actually let you look.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. I would love for people to be able to show them what they say, or translate,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or not have
Yeah.
to translate.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind it, but I would love for them to see it in its form.
And that's kind of the fun part about doing the regressions like that, because once you get them in, and the way that this school of thought taught is essentially, you take them down like a staircase or an elevator, and it's that counting down process to help loop them
Mm-hmm.
in, and then you're walking down a hallway with doors, and each one of those doors are theoretically representing another life. But once you get to the door, now the person who's being regressed takes over the conversation, and then you get to just sit back and be like, uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
You take your little notes, or you might guide them along, be like, okay, well let's exit this door now, and let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try a different one.
But with the language, I shouldn't say he's the only. I just
You,
say
Oh no,
you're
but I'm
putting
saying like,
yourself in a very vulnerable mental state.
very
So
so.
it's not something I would let any Tom, Dick, or Harry do because
Yeah.
I've met enough, especially in the spiritualist community, that are just fucking terrible people
Mm-hmm.
and will
Mhm.
exploit you every God-given chance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I totally understand being gun shy about that.
100%. But yeah, no, I think it's absolutely fascinating. I keep meaning to do it. I've had plenty of people be like, "I'll be your guinea pig." It's like, cool. Mm, but you might just stumble and just stay behind door number 4. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
So, but again, that's where the imposter syndrome comes in, the worry of not being able to do, and
Well, and I think that's why, as much as I'm not usually into the just testing out anyone, if it's someone I've worked with, if it's somebody who has read for me, I feel more comfortable with that. Or if I have a mentee, or if I have somebody who's learning, I'll let them read for me. I'm not gonna let them just like randomly. But um, I used to be like, no, nobody can read for me, and now I'm like, okay, well, you can try it. We can see.
We'll see how it goes.
But something like that, where I know your beliefs on past lives, you know mine, we know enough about each other's.
That it's not
Yeah.
as daunting.
It's not some random person. And even knowing that you know a handful of my past lives, so theoretically, you could be like, let's start here.
yeah,
That doesn't bother me, partly because I know what some of them look like, so that would almost be the best place for both of us
It
to
would be
start.
comfortable
yeah.
to explore that.
Yeah. I know that you wouldn't, because I have, I'd be like, look, you changed this, whether you did it on purpose or not.
But this is not right.
But I do find it really fascinating, just studying and learning and knowing who you were in a completely different lifetime can actually really help
Mm-hmm.
the current lifetime and the growth. And like we were saying before about, well, this is crap. You're wiping my memory. How am I supposed to learn it? This is the cheat code.
Yes.
This is back, down, uppercut. It's the only cheat code I ever remembered. It's from Mortal Kombat. I was that cheater that would use the same move from Scorpion and pull somebody over and just uppercut the crap out of them and lean that way. Because it's the only way I
It
can work.
really is. It's a great way to speed up the learning process. That's all it really is. It's not cheating. It's finding the library and walking into the random end of the books.
It's
A little
the
bit of cheating. Yeah. Well, my particular soul group is known for bucking the system, apparently.
Well, and if you're seeking past life information, you're already probably in a spiritual enough place to be getting, we'll say, the advanced placement course. It's not cheating. We're gifted.
And that's why we struggle in other areas.
Yes, and that's why, our friends are all equally as strange as us.
It is. It's always the kids who are struggling somewhere. We've just we struggle
living life
everywhere
together.
except for that. Yeah.
Or you're just, some gym bro looking for something to do on a Friday night.
And then it's for entertainment purposes only. You ain't gonna learn shit anyway.
That's right.
That's where it's the like, oh wow, you were this historical figure. Oh, who? Cleopatra.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, dude.
Always the Egyptians too. Or
I think it's just because
I did at one point think sorry.
no.
That I was James Dean in their life, and what I learned was that I was somebody who had been told by his mother that he was named after James Dean, but when you do the math, she didn't know who James Dean was till he was like 2.
And it's like it's James. It's not exactly like a hard name. Like it's not an unknown name.
But that's like how it translates. Back to the energy translation. But I interrupted you.
Oh no. I think with like ancient Egyptian, I think you see that pop up a lot because at least with like European descendants, that's like the closest ancient culture like that, kind of it predates ancient Greece. It's one of those.
It's one of the few that we actually,
And then we still have like access to
Mhm.
information on,
Yeah. It's one of the few that we learn about growing up.
Yeah.
That's true too.
It's also one of
It's kind of
those mythologies that
place.
appears very early in our school life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
That is very
Them, then the Greeks, and then eventually at least a little bit to like the Aztec, Maya, and Inca.
Yeah.
That's about it.
One of my first books that I read about, I don't know if it was time travel or past lives, but I was in like first grade or second grade, and it was written for like third or fourth graders. Um, but it was a little girl who one day stumbled into ancient Egypt.
It was like, whoops.
And then I think when she wakes up, it was like a dream, but she was like, "Oh no, this is a memory and a past life," and it's a cute little book, and I was like, "Yeah, that all makes sense to me."
I mean,
She was Cleopatra, though. She was just a little girl in ancient Egypt. Like it was the same as having a normal life here, except it was cooler because it was ancient Egypt.
That's
I don't know necessarily. I'm sorry.
It didn't seem cool to her, probably.
Yeah, like it's like, oh, it's cooler because it's like, ancient Egypt. I'm like, I like plumbing. And I don't like sand.
I like the big ceremonies.
I think.
I don't want to be in a ceremony, but I like the idea that like every day is marked by like
Yeah.
call this
Like
God. Now we'll.
Yep.
No, I think some of it would be super cool. It's just like I'd also be like, you know what would be fantastic here in
A shower.
2000 BC? A shower and toilet paper. And not a rag on a stick everybody shares, like actual toilet.
Oh.
Like it's ancient Egypt. We made papyrus. We can make toilet paper.
Yeah.
I have a thing for modern conveniences, okay? Like it's all great and all, but like I love reading like transmigration like mangas and stuff where like the person like wakes up in the body of somebody from like ancient China or whatever. Like I find them entertaining, but not a single one of them bitches about like the lack of like modern conveniences during this time. And I'm like, there is at least one point I would be like, I would really just like to wash my hands right now. Like, I just want to wash my hands.
I mean, but that's valid. So
Mhm.
during after my first deployment to Iraq, my parents were like, "So what was the one thing you missed most?" Legit answer: a toilet and proper toilet paper. And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Military grade ain't great for everything, and it's really not for toilets." And boy, did we get sick and tired of digging little holes to do our business.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing I said I would never take for granted again, and I'd like to think I've done a good job at not taking that for granted because when you don't have that option, and like we didn't shower for 3-4 months
Yeah.
in the desert in the summer, like it was like we were right. But I'll take the toilet and the toilet paper over a shower.
Yeah. Like at some point I can jump in a river and like at least feel a little better.
Yep,
Toilets. Toilets.
the best modern community.
And I'm like, I'm way too pragmatic for a fantasy novel. Like, don't transmigrate my ass. Like, I do not need.
Okay, but I would love those fantasy novels where you go back and then you're like,
Yeah, they're like,
I'm gonna need you to get
whatever system sent me here, can I go back? Or you can just kill me. I don't need to be reincarnated. Like, I can just die and start over again in modern times. Thank you.
Everyone spends the whole time teaching people engineering and plumbing.
Right? And
I would read the hell out of
in
them.
Outlander, that was one of the most relatable things is when the daughter from like the 60s or whatever goes back in time. She's an engineer, like that's what she went to school for. So she does start like building indoor plumbing. And I'm like, that is so real. Like, I have the tools. I'm going to make myself a shower. Like,
Of course, everybody else from the future then like maybe we calm it down a little bit, Bree. We don't need them finding a cabin in the woods 200 years from now
Yeah, I'm cool with
with
it.
indoor plumbing.
No, but then you have those. What happened?
Aliens.
it's like
Right.
there's this one settlement on the ridge in North Carolina that has indoor plumbing with clay pipes. Like,
Let it be
and
those
that's just the thing.
things.
That's why she built it with clay, I guarantee you, so it would break down.
Break down. That's yeah. But actually, that's that. Now we're touching into a whole new subject. It's not ancient aliens. It's time traveling. It's how
I
the
mean,
pyramids
It's
go.
just people being like, look, I'm so excited to be here.
but toilets.
Eventually, you're gonna have these really great big triangular buildings here, and people are gonna come from all over the world to see it. Dude, that's like cool. I have a book that explains how you made it.
Here's the Pythagorean theorem. Go for it.
And then you get a crazy haired guy going, aliens.
I just wonder if the Library of Alexandria had things like computers. And we just lost it when we lost all of the books and all of the things.
Or at least like modern textbooks and things like, or like futuristic tech, like things that were obviously not of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it was lit on fire because the time travelers were like, all right, we went too far.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Or they had figured it out and we lost it because they were like, no, we need to keep them in the dark. They were and this may also be like I've always had these and then also again fell into that that podcast where I'm like, no, that makes sense. And I don't want to spoil it in case anybody decides they want to listen to it. But there are so many things in there where you're like, oh, it is the aliens, but not in the way we think it is. There's one episode where they describe Earth as the neighborhood where you roll up your
where you roll up and lock the windows. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw somebody on TikTok going like, okay, to the aliens that are out there on, I guess there's some like meteor system rolling through our system right now, and you're going past Earth, like turn around. You don't want to come here.
Well, and I've seen it on both Tube Shorts and on TikTok, so I don't know which one it originated from, but it's a fake traffic stop with a cop and a black man behind the wheel of the car, and the cop's like, "Why are you driving 70 miles an hour through a 35 zone?" The guy's like, "Officer, this is the ghetto. I'm just trying to get out."
He's like, I'm in the hood.
And he goes, all right, that's fair. You got a gun? No? Hold on a second, I got one for you. You're gonna need it. So like if there are aliens out there that are observing Earth, I feel like that's the conversations they have. Like one's kind of leaving, the other one's pulling. They're like, you need an atomizer. All right, just arm yourself. They're crazy apes.
Yeah, this is a not we come in peace. We come heavily armed and in fear of our lives.
Observe from way far away. They're
That's
not
why
there
they
yet.
have to contact
They are
us.
not friendly.
You know what? I need you to evolve a little bit more.
Maybe if they'd stop taking, Billy Bob Yokel out of his bass boat.
But that's the easiest.
It
When
is.
you're all by yourself, that's the easiest target.
Yeah.
My
But they're
favorite
not
comic
exactly the
will
best.
always be the
They're
one
not
where
exactly
it's
the
like,
best
human
example.
for my project tomorrow.
It is 9 o'clock at night.
Oh, I love it.
All right, I think we're devolving at this
I was
point.
gonna say we're looking at
This is now
humorous conspiracy theories.
this is now aliens. If you're not going to help, just turn around,
Yeah.
run.
Yeah. Even if you are gonna help, just run. We probably deserve what we've got coming.
Help, or are you going to help in a way that just adds
More crap. All right. So on that note,
On that very heartening note,
travel?
Sarah, thank you so much for coming on. This is
Yeah.
a lot of fun. I always enjoy sitting down and talking with you. So getting it recorded makes it even better. Everybody out there, so where can people find you?
So my website is Sora Sky Messages. That's SORA. It literally means sky in Japanese. It's how I got named by my friend who um speaks fluent Japanese and has also been there multiple times. But
I just think of Kingdom Hearts.
SORA. That's what you'll find if you just Google Sora. So
Yeah.
that's why SORASKY messages .com. On Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook, I'm at Sora Sky Messages. I have not been on there much, and every once in a while I announce that I have returned and then I sleep for a day. I had some health stuff and I'm still getting my energy back, but the first thing I did was stop on social media. So I do exist there. It's just hit or miss. I'm really trying to get on there more because I do enjoy it, but also because I'm working on a tarot deck and will need to do the promotion thing.
Oh, speaking of, we do have one of her tarot decks too in the shop.
That's right. I have a deck that I was the tarot consultant and research assistant for, illustrated by Killer Pancake Illustration. Genevieve is amazing. She's working on a couple of decks right now, but she did all the illustrations and it is called Haunted. It is Eastern Ohio, Western Pennsylvania, and Virginia folklore, true crime, ghost stories, cryptids. And it's a lot of fun. That's one of the ones I do the past life readings with.
For those of you who have video, it's this one right here.
Oh, the one I'm working on is similar in that I hope to be able to use it for the past life readings, and have it be a nice blend of the Rider-Waite-Smith and my own tarot system. And very different in that it is based on martial arts and the Akashic records. It started as martial arts
and developed further.
But when you're developing a deck that you want to use for past life readings, you're going to stumble into the Akashic records.
That's fair.
That's kind of how you get there. But so hopefully I will be doing that. You can also email me. The email is long. It is soratheintuitive at gmail.com. Those are probably the best ways to get a hold of me, and I do hope to start putting my calendar out there again because I do read here. And a couple places, well, 2 places. And I'm trying to be better about putting that out instead of
advertising yourself a little.
Yeah, that's not my thing, especially because I like to love to have that idea that the universe does help us sometimes. And so it's like, no, the person, they'll find me. And I have to be better about not thinking it.
The universe helps those who help themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not much better. We very rarely plug the shop into the podcast, so
I've tried to get better about it.
yeah.
I mean, you did the deck. You can buy it here.
No, we don't have it here.
You don't have it here.
No.
No,
Is it?
I haven't found like a purchase to
I will
retail
talk to her
option.
because there should be.
She will be here for one of the events.
Bellevue Forward's Music Festival on the 27th
Okay,
of
so she'll
September.
have
She's
it.
going to be here
Selling.
She should have
setting
the
up
extra
table.
copy, or not extra copies, but because we kickstarted it,
Yeah.
we went above our goal, so we were able to do a bigger run. So we covered all of the orders, but also I think she still has a few copies. She was looking into wholesale. We ran into this super cool thing where tariffs and other things,
Kind of.
yeah, made shipping and made printing suddenly even worse than it already was. So, and because I was the consultant and assistant, the printing stuff all fell on Genevieve.
Oof.
And so I know that there have been some issues with things like that, but also she's already on to her next couple
Her next project.
Yeah. But I know you can buy it, but I know she was working on a whole.
I know I got it off of like the website directly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I don't know if it's up yet because I haven't been good about that. Because I too have been onto other things. I mean, I use this almost every day, but I am not good about promoting it. I was for a while, but yeah.
But it's the one that does the social media stuff for us. It just after a while it feels like you're just trying to beat it into the people's heads. It's like if they haven't gotten it yet, they're probably not going to. So let's ease up on them. But I like using it for the for our daily posts here at for the shop. The stories behind it are absolutely fantastic. Um, and that reminds me, I'm going to off camera talk to you about a project that the nonprofit I'm involved in, Bellevue Forward, is doing that we're doing for Halloween.
Oh, cool.
So, um, but yeah. All right, guys, we know where to find her. You know where to find us. Do me that favor, like, share, subscribe, pound the buttons, do all the things that absolutely everybody always tells you on every single podcast. Again, if you ever have any questions, comments, concerns, or ideas, the.Conclave.Podcast at gmail.com or that same handle for Facebook, Instagram, direct message us, or heck, find us on the Menagerie PGH. That's our website for the shop, and all the social media is all one word, all lowercase. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time.